Hi, I'm Professor Rob Davidson. I've been an academic in medical imaging for over 25 years. Prior to that, I was a clinical diagnostic radiographer, primarily in South Australia, and then got into sales and marketing side of things for about 10 years. And then saw the light and became an academic, and have loved it ever since. We're a very new course, so we're the newest course in Australia. So the Bachelor of Medical Radiation Science has only been going for about 4 years. So we've had an opportunity to really look at what's going on around Australia. All courses in Bachelor level are 4-year courses. We've condensed that down to about 3.5 years. There's some pros and cons, but the great advantage around that is that students graduate in June. So all of the rest of the courses around Australia, their graduates come out in November. So in June, they're going to be able to go and look for a job without so much competition, and that's a really fantastic outcome for the students. We've got a small course, a small number of students in the course, so that means that we've got better face time, one-on-one with them. Students are going to be able to spend more time with us. They spend more time in the labs doing what we call preclinical skills. That gives them an opportunity to take those preclinical skills out into practice when they go out on clinical placements. One of the other things that we're really focusing on is getting the students' communication skills to a level that's appropriate. Students are going to be dealing with patients, whether they're a student or when they're a graduate. So it's important to have those professional communication skills developed. So we spend a lot of time around professional development and communication skills. That's something that we've had some really good feedback from our clinical partners around some of the things that they like about our students. They're going to graduate as a registered practicing diagnostic radiographer. So we need them to be able to integrate the knowledge that underpins all of that area with those clinical skills. Radiography is about making sure that you're going to get an optimised image for that specific patient, their condition, so that there's going to be the best diagnostic image quality available for the clinicians to be able to make a diagnosis. Well, what we're really looking for is a bit of a mix of characteristics. So students need to have some underpinning science knowledge. That knowledge is really important because that underpins their ability to be able to do the job, to be able to optimise the protocols for that specific patient, their condition. But we also need the student to have good empathy type skills. They're going to be dealing with patients that are potentially dying, who are sick or who are injured, and they need to be able to adapt their own communication skills, their own interpersonal skills with those particular patients. And it's also about being able to manage their own emotional responses when they're dealing with such patients. It's a bit of a weird mix. We need them to have that scientific sort of background, but we also need them to have a good interpersonal skills when dealing with patients. Yeah, we've got 42 weeks of clinical placement. So that 42 weeks of clinical placement comes in 2.5 years. So in the last 2.5 years of the course, they're spending 42 weeks out on clinical placement. They also have to study, and they've got to gain that knowledge as well as develop that clinical skills. So it's a very intense time for a clinical placement, but that clinical placement is well and truly embedded. We don't quite call it work integrated learning because we've been doing it ever since we've been running radiography courses. It's around clinical placement, it's around taking that preclinical skill knowledge that we develop on campus and then translating that to putting that with real patients in the clinical environment. They're going to start off very supported, and then they're going to end up being independent practitioners or close to independent practitioners. So when they graduate, they are beginning diagnostic radiographers. So that 42 weeks is very important. The other thing around that, we need them to spend time both in a major public hospital, private radiology practice, and in rural locations. So what we want students to get from that is there's different ways radiographers work. in major public hospitals and private radiology groups, they're very much part of a team. So they've got to develop those team skills and they've got to work within that team. Out in rural locations, they might be working with a single radiographer. So that team is a very different team. They'll be working with the local GP, the nurses in the hospital, the local physios and other health professionals around the area. So the team becomes very different. They need to understand that different team, but they will be the sole radiographer. So they need to work with that sole radiographer and then have got generalised knowledge and skills rather than more specialised ones. So they need to be able to work in both. It's a requirement that we have students go out on clinical placement in rural locations. Students will travel anywhere from Perth to Darwin to Alice Springs to Queensland. Yeah, a lot of places around ACT and southern New South Wales. Tassie as well. We send students just about everywhere across Australia. It gives them an opportunity to examine the different types of radiography that are done in different places and then work out where they want to apply for jobs as well. So they will be studying while they're out on clinical placement. It's going to be intense from both that point of view. So yeah, there's lots of intense activities that they need to do, but the big advantage is that they're going to graduate earlier and complete their course earlier. So one of the facilities we've got on campus is our medical imaging laboratory. The way we've set that up is that we've got 4 X-ray rooms. Each of those 4 X-ray rooms are very different. One would represent a room that you might find in a major public hospital in a trauma situation, and the others then vary to a room that you might find in a private radiology practice. Each of those rooms require students to know the equipment and to be able to work out how they're going to get that equipment around each patient, because not every patient is a walk-in, walk-out patient. So we've got a variety of rooms that are set up. They're set up like clinical departments. The other great thing with the lab is that we've got 20 PCs in the lab so that we can use this as a tutorial room. All of the X-ray equipment, when we create images of things called phantoms, not of real patients, but of things called phantoms, we then can send those images to what we call a PAC system. And that's where all of the images are stored. It's just like what happens in a hospital or a private radiology group. The images get stored digitally and then they can be viewed by whoever needs to be able to look at them. Students can access this PACS anywhere in the world. They don't have to be on campus. We've got a lot of labs set up specifically within there that requires them to access the labs. We've also got a whole lot of simulation software. So we can get the students to practice on a computer and allow them to make mistakes on a computer and then how to turn around and correct it. They can do that in a nice, safe, virtual environment. It's going to help them develop those skills. It would be great to see potential students. It would be great to have them at any on-campus or virtual O-week time that they can think of coming to do us. They can come in and ask us questions. They're welcome to send questions through to the Faculty of Health. We will answer those questions. Hopefully we will see them at some stage in the not too distant future.